Hello again, everybody. What's going on? You are listening to the Playing On Podcast. My name is Carl Markowski, and thank you for joining me. Another episode. Here it is. This one is with Drew Templeton, a good friend of mine. He's been around a circuit for a long time now. Back with his boys on Infamous. We had a really good conversation at World Cup. It's really good to see him playing at the highest level still. Kid's got great skill, man. It was really enjoyable watching him. Meeting him on Avalanche and then hearing his story, how he played on Tip and Effect and coming through, and then playing again with him on Chicago Aftershock. It was really cool, and just a really good dude, man. Solid paintball player and just all around good person. But before we get into the podcast, a quick thank you to our sponsors. This episode is sponsored by Carbon Paintball, which has the new CC line that is out. We have gloves, pants, there's jerseys, there's packs, and you can find it all over at carbonpaintball.com. And if you type in the promo code capital TPOP, you can get 10% off your entire order. So make sure you use that promo code, and you can get 10% off your order. So thank you to Carbon. Also brought to you by Planet Eclipse, who has released the G-Mech frame. I don't even know if that's officially what they call it, but it's the G-Mech frame. It's a mechanical frame for the G-Tech, and it's nasty. It's so sweet. I can't wait to get my hands on one. I'm gonna be using that thing all the time. But along with that, they have a plethora of awesome high-end markers over at planeteclipse.com, as well as soft goods and everything you need Planet. So thank you very much to Planet Eclipse. We are also brought to you by Charm City Paintball, who has collaborated with me on some pack bands, some high-quality bands for your pack. You can message me about those, but if you look over at Charm City Paintball on Facebook or Instagram and check out all of the fabrics that he has, they're all limited quantity, they're all high quality. They're the best stitching in the game, and they stay together. The pack bands we have is a ripstop material. It's all high quality stuff. It's really good. Make sure you check him out, Charm City Paintball, and go ahead and shoot him a message and get yourself some headgear. It's sweet. And we are also brought to you by GIsportz, who supplies Aftershock with some awesome pants, with a loader, with great packs. But I specifically like talking about the LVL loader. That thing is very cool. I've shot a lot of loaders over the years, and this one in particular is really cool. The way it breaks down and tears down, and cleanup's super easy, and it's just an all-around good loader. It's super sturdy. I can't say enough good things about it. I've really been impressed by it ever since it came out. But thank you to GIsportz for supporting this podcast, and really appreciate it. So thank you to all of our sponsors. So without further ado, here is the episode with Drew Templeton. Enjoy. All right,
Here we go.
we're live.
We are.
What's up, Drewby?
Not much. How are you?
Dude, same old. Paintball, new World Cup. I was just talking to Dalton yesterday, and we were talking about how old we were, because this is like the 12th World Cup or 13th World Cup we've been to.
I don't know. You come to this little part of town and you feel like you live here because you know where everything's at. You know where to turn. You're like, I don't need directions. I know where we're going.
Yeah, I think it's the better venue of the year. I mean, not only the nostalgia of World Cup, but just the venue itself, having the giant Gaylord Palms Hotel in the background, and everybody being able to see the layout of the paintball event on the highways and all that. And
it's a much better location.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I've been wanting to talk to you for a while now, just because we've been on a few teams together.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to see where you came from. I knew you grew up in the Chicago area and around Aftershock and around all those teams. But how did paintball come about? How did your whole paintball career start?
It started, at the very beginning. I was born and raised in Little Rock, Arkansas, so I lived there until high school. And that's the first place I ever played paintball, was at T-Square Paintball. It's like right outside Little Rock. So I just started playing, right? Wasn't really into it that much. And then we moved to Columbus, Ohio when I was in high school. And that's when I started really like seeing...
Which I never knew about.
Yeah, I know.
I had no idea about that.
It's actually kind of a funny story how we kind of went full circle at almost the same camps and didn't really even realize it. But played at Splatter Park there. That was my first, going every weekend kind of vibe, right? I played, 5-man, then went to my first... MPPL Chicago event, saw the 10-man. I was like, I want to do that. That looks awesome. So started playing 10-man with the team there, and then basically at the end. So how
did you discover where did paintball in your life, where did paintball come in at that area?
As far as just falling in love with the sport.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it was the very first time I played. It was me and my friend versus my dad, and I just remember it was this school field. And I break out, and I'm just scared, right? And I don't see him. I'm like, oh, where is he? And then I'm popping my head out, and I don't even see him. And we're playing with the Stingray, the little plastic guns, basically. And he one-balls me in the face. And I'm looking back on it, I'm like, wow, that's actually a really good shot. With this rental gun all the way across the field, you one-balled me in the face. And I was just like...
Did he tell you to get out, toy?
Yeah. No, but I didn't even see him, It's just okay, this is kind of fun. And then we started teaming up together, and we were playing the guys at the field. And it was just so much fun. I mean, the first time I played, I was a little scared, right? You're just oh, I'm out. Actually, no, I'm not, So, but it was, and I think it was at school, there was some of my friends, we all got into it at the same time. So it was something that we did, right? We had the APG magazines at the lunch table, and the girls are at the other table, and we're like, nah, we're looking at the paintball magazines, and we're going to talk about paintball because we're going this weekend, you know what I mean? So, that's kind of how I fell in love with the sport, right?
So was that your dad's first time playing, your first time playing, or
it was our first time playing. So, and I actually had this vision too of I remember the team, the family, and I'm like, oh, we can all play together. My dad's I think he kind of phased out of it, but we all had all the all of my friends we loved to play, so it was cool.
Now you grew up with SOS, correct?
So actually, at the end of Columbus, Ohio, my family moved to St. Louis, and that's when I went to school at University of Missouri, which is in the middle of Missouri, right? And the only place to play, so I played in St. Louis all the time. There was an indoor there when I just moved there, which was great because a lot of teams and players played there. But as far as being competitive, it wasn't really the number one spot. So I met Brock Jolliffe in St. Louis, and he kind of guided me towards trying out for Diesel, which was Greg Pauly's team at the time. And so drove to Nebraska, tried out for Diesel, and then that was really one of my first main competitive teams.
Is that when Tiljack and all them, or am I thinking of a different team?
No, Tiljack was on Dynasty at that point. It was basically the year after.
So that's late. Okay, so that was later. All right.
It was later. It was when they played. It was after they played 7-man. They only played D1 X ball at the time. So it was me. JJ Williams was actually on the team.
Really?
Tim Jenkins, Brock Jolliffe.
Well, JJ's from St. Louis.
Yep.
That's right.
So a lot of the guys that are still in the industry, Ben Frederick from Exalt was on the team.
Roger
Henn, Roger and Gerwin were on the team, so that was really one of the first competitive teams. And then in Ohio, I did play one event with Tipman Effect before I moved, and that was kind of my Tipman Effect story, because you always kind of look up. There's a few teams in Ohio. There's Detroit Fusion, Tipman Effect. There's a few amateur teams GIsportz and all these other teams you could have played on. But then I moved, and I was kind of I felt like I caught my stride. Ohio paintball seemed good, and then St. Louis, everything just kind of happened at the right time, right? Brock got me on Diesel, and then that was when I started traveling to Chicago.
You started taking it pretty serious.
Yeah, and basically lived in St. Louis, and I would, after work on Friday, I would drive basically 5 hours to Chicago, practice, and then that's when I met the Voltage guys, Socines. Drive to their house an hour and a half away, drive back to Badlands, drive from Badlands home, repeat, right? So
now a lot of I don't really know the history of Voltage, but was a lot of those guys the ones that played for Shock?
They were. So Josh Yost, I forgot to mention him. He actually played on Shock for a few years. He was on Diesel with us, and he said it was that World Cup. He's like, I'm gonna go watch my buddies play. They're on this team Voltage. I'm like, okay, cool. We went that tournament. It was a lot of the original Voltage guys. Damian Ryan was on the team that tournament. He was he played with the Voltage guys, And sort of the history of them is they came up, as a family together, like the Sosines, Mike Sosine, Randall, Chris and Greg, their friends, Mike Morley, Joe Tomati, like all these guys played together on different 5-man teams and kind of came together as Voltage. And then the off season of 05-06 is when we all kind of came together and played D2 X-Ball and D1 7-man. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, and it was cool because it really was like a family. I mean, Randall was there every single practice. He was like the team owner. He had us all together, and these guys, Mikey lived 2 doors down from Sos, so these guys were like best friends in school. It was really kind of cool to see them stay together.
The Voltage was pretty successful as a divisional team.
Yeah, I mean, that year, it's sort of like, looking back on it, it was almost kind of a blessing in disguise, but I think we had second place in X-Ball. We won Vegas, which was like the second event, and then I think we had second places in 7-man and X-Ball, which was like every other month at the time. I think we had 5 or 6 in a row.
Jeez.
So it was, we had a really successful season, but we had some really heartbreaking second places. So D1 X-Ball, it was to either Aftermath or X Factor.
Yeah.
And Speed at the time, which is like RNT or Rage, or I'm not sure what they go by now.
Yeah.
Sort of those guys. So,
don't you think that the way that team chemistry was and the camaraderie that the team had attributed to those wins and those second places, those learning curves?
100%. I mean, you almost it's something that is a great thing when you feel it on a team, because you can't really force it, right? You can't just force chemistry. You're like, we're all of a sudden going to know exactly how to play with each other. We're going to be best friends and everything. But it was so cool because they already sort of had that, at the local scene in Chicago. But then when we started playing a lot of national tournaments, it just clicked, and you just feel this vibe, and it was a pretty special thing that year, I think. And honestly, that team is basically, we had a lot of success that year in divisional. And that's when Ed Foreman noticed us and was like, I basically want your whole squad, and you will make up half of our X-Ball team.
Yeah.
So, and, that was kind of the beginning of the serious paintball, I guess. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
And that was that was what, 07?
Yeah, 07.
Or the beginning of the 07 season.
Yeah. Because I remember Ed, before that, picked up all the Farside guys to play on his team. This is Danny and Brandon and the Farside guys. And we used to practice them. And I think Ed would get kind of pissed because we were just like these kids, and I mean those guys were good, but I feel like we would like, I mean it's practice looking back, but we would like beat up on them, and Ed's like, dude, these kids are just like, I picked up you guys to beat them. What are you doing? So
I know he's the dude, Ed. Man, I just saw him earlier in the event, and he smiled at me, and it's like him and I had like a little bit of turmoil back when the team, just because I don't know if it was probably just communication and me being just a dickhead 20-year-old. But he's a great guy, man. I think he's great for paintball. I think with what he did with Warped and just with everything in paintball in general, and bringing us on and creating that team. I think that team was one of the best teams I've ever been on.
Too. And I think we had that same chemistry feel. Like when we really started clicking at the end of that season in Omaha and World Cup, and it was just like, I mean, you could count on the times, like on your hand, how many times you got shot the whole tournament, right?
Yeah.
You're like, we were playing pretty good.
It was nasty. It had that real family Midwest vibe to it, and I think that all of us being pretty much from the Midwest.
Yep.
And I think Brandon was from Kentucky or something like that, and so I think that was, man. I always think about the X-Ball tournaments and the 7-man tournaments, and it was just we had so much potential, possibly going into the next year.
I know that was. Yeah, and that was kind of a shame because we finally got that NXL spot, and it just, didn't click. It was very close games. It was like I think it was 1-point losses, almost all of them. And then you see teams that we beat up on in D1, like Damage and Impact, just stick with it and have success very early, and then X Factor too, and then look where they are now. They're still in the league. They're still super competitive. We could have. We know we had that same thing. It just didn't come together at the right time.
So, what do you think that issue was with that team? Like, why didn't it stick?
I mean, I think back then it was even more expensive to fund a team. You had more players, entry fees were higher, etc. Right? And if you didn't, produce, there was no one's there to just be like, okay, I'll let you guys. You have a burn rate of a couple years. It's like, no, you have a burn rate of like one tournament. Produce or it's done. Because I remember Ed was like, dude, I'm paying like a bunch of money for entry fees. It's coming out of my pocket. There was I'm sure there was tons of help from the sponsors. Like we were kind of out of that conversation, but I think that was what it basically boiled down to. It just doesn't make sense to keep doing this.
I mean, do you think at this level, do you think that the players should be, maybe not necessarily involved in the sponsorship issues, but like, do you think there should start becoming, start having some kind of contractual obligations for all the professional players on the team, or do you think it's still going to be everybody's just on a handshake?
I think I do agree that I don't think we're entitled to anything as professional players, but there are some things that you see, like it's easier said than done, right? It's not like I'm just gonna run the Excel and just make it this huge sport, because everyone's has their ideas. Like I almost kind of tune people out when they have their how to make paintball bigger, spiels. You're like, right. I've heard this 1,000 times, but there's little things that I think I don't know, maybe we could do a little better. I mean, I love the fact that you do this free podcast. I think the webcast should be free for everybody.
Yeah.
It's you have a pool of 6,000 people like on a subscription. It's like great, but that's 6,000 people. You could make it free on YouTube Red, or put it out there and have everybody see
I think that's a perfect platform. Is something like YouTube Red, or YouTube Live channel.
And I get it that it's a business and you have to make money, but there's also like marketing expenses in every single business.
Yeah.
And if you have the money to have this burn rate like these teams did that are now with it and now winning and don't need that pressure, then there it is right there, right? Make it, do it right, do it with people that have experience running successful broadcasts that aren't just grandfathered in because they played paintball 20 years ago. And there, I think we found the right mix of those people in different aspects of the industry, it seems like. But do that, blast paintball out to the audiences, and don't say you have to pay for the webcast, etc.
Well, and I feel like the same thing, because I understand everything costs money, right? I understand that there is a production value, or a production cost that goes to running that webcast. I mean, there's the motion cameras that are in the pits that I'm sure are not cheap. Streaming it, all the people doing the stats. This is very low cost.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But the basis is the same, right? Getting paintball to the public, not just to the paintball public, but to the general public. And I think that is where we need to focus that webcast. Is put it on. If there's 6,000 people watching, that's probably going to go up on maybe one of the trending live webcasts that is usually up on YouTube. And I think that would help the sport out tremendously. But how they're going to balance that cost to releasing it for free and how they're going to pay for it, I don't know that answer.
Right. And I think as they could have content in between the events that is a little more enticing to pay for the subscription, instead of just having a tournament every other month. And they do a good job of that, but I think there's room for improvement, right? Like, I think there's been times where they build a story with certain players or build a rivalry, and I think that's like definitely one of the more interesting parts of our sport that's sort of unknown. It's like that in every other sport. Someone in a sport tweets something about one guy, and it's like on SportsCenter for a month. And I'm not saying that it's a direct one-to-one relation, but I think that you could build content in between these events and really build up a story, and that would help people maintain their subscription on whatever platform. But blasting it out, I don't know. I think it's the right way to do it. I don't think you're going to get what are you going to advertise and be like, hey, pay per month for this. You don't even know what paintball is, but by the way, pay per month and watch this one tournament every other month. Like,
No, I agree. What do you, and you've probably heard me say this, but what do you think about the whole 4-pod thing?
I think it's just a different way of the game. I feel
you
like
think it'll change the game?
All this stuff sort of changes it, right? But everyone adapts to the current situation. So I feel like it's not.
The W is a perfect example of it.
But I don't know if it's the right vision to because you added a W that everybody around the world is going to know what paintball is and want to watch it all of a sudden because they have 4 pods. All you're doing is saying, here's a W and here's 4 pods for the 6,000 people, and everyone catch on for a year, and then next year we'll change it, right? So I think it's too much of a narrow focus on how to change the game, right? So paintball is fun for what it is, and I don't think that matters if it's 15 balls a second, 12, 10, W, 4 pods, right? It's the same. It's basically the same game, So.
Well, I guess the whole reason why I think I'm an advocate for the whole 4-pod thing is I believe that it will change the game. I think going from unlimited paint to 2 pods of what the Millennium was doing, I think that was too drastic of a change.
Yeah.
I think on average, the average point is probably, I mean, give or take 2 minutes, something like that. And within that 2 minutes, you are probably only shooting about 4 pods, even if you're on the trigger the entire time.
Yeah.
I think that we're relegating everything to the BPS, to everything has its limit. And I think limiting that paint will not only equal everybody out, and not being able to trade pods off like they did in the Millennium or whatever, but I think it will also it'll force moves, because and I think the you ever listen to the paintball podcast, Mike Zapps?
Oh yeah.
Did you listen to the Ryan Brand and Billy one?
No, I didn't hear that one.
It's so weird. Billy Ryan was talking about it, and he was thinking of some kind of like a way to kind of get the pace rolling and not have these pocket plays, which are eventually found on Sunday. Even if it's a fast field, pockets are eventually found. But it's like a 2-minute shot clock, to where it's like a race to 7 points, but it's within a 2-minute time span. And I can't remember, I'm probably butchering this, but I can't really remember how he was saying it, but it's like it's a 2-minute, you either get the point or you don't. It's either a point or you don't. And it's this incentive of getting people to get down the field and get moving, and not just to sit there. And especially if you do that in 2 minutes with the 4 pods, you either get the point going down and winning that buzzer, or it's a no point at all kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a bunch of other logistics that'll go into it. But I think it's something like that you have to try.
Yeah.
Speak of the devil.
I know.
That format. Oh man.
Yeah, I think that. I think ideas like that would make the game more exciting. But I don't know if it's.
You just don't. We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know until we try it, and I think what's killing the interest of people out there is, like, people think of paintball. Okay, all right, running around, and that's the first thing to think about. Running around, shooting people in the woods, right? But the first thing normally they say, oh, you run around in the woods and you shoot people. Okay, so they think it's at least active, right? Running around. But once they go and watch this side of it, unless they're watching a highlight video and they're just watching a game, most of the time everybody's just sitting there crossing up, shooting lanes.
Right. And from a broadcast point of view, it's so paintball's a very complicated game when you consider all the aspects. If it's like, as a pro players and teams playing each other, it's very complicated. Like, even this layout, I don't think there's been a layout in a while that has this many different
You're good, just move a little closer.
Different little variables that you can change in the game, and that stuff's so hard to explain, because it's hard enough to say who shot who and who's doing what and who's playing, let alone like what these little cross shots do, and the difference between shooting this lane 2 inches here and this lane 2 inches there, right? So that's really tough. And I think people, when you start to get on your rant and you explain it to strangers about the game, you feel like you can talk about it for hours, right? Of how complicated the game is, and people start to appreciate all of that stuff. It's not just like everybody's like, what makes people good at paintball? It's like, well, it's what makes someone good at basketball. You just put the ball in the hoop, but it's complicated, right? They know how to play defense to the right people. They know how to play. Their offensive schematic is like exactly tuned up to the team they're playing. Like all these different variables that are the marginal gains to winning at a pro level. So,
and I think that's what separates the really good players to the great players.
Right.
Right, are those little nuances of tendencies, and and being able to have that neuron flash in your head of making that decision 2 seconds faster than the guy across from you.
Right, but back to the point of like changing the format and changing 4 pods at the rate of fire or whatever. All the players that understand those nuances will adapt to that format. So I don't know if that's like necessarily the right move to make other people have an aha moment that paintball is what it is. They're like, oh, now I get it, that this game has all these like little subtleties of different shots that you can do and how involved this game is. I don't know if that's the case. The players will understand it, but that's the problem. The same pool is understanding the same changes. The same reason why, if paintball were like the NBA or something, then I don't know, Clyde Drexler would still be playing or something, right? It's like you look at the players and it's all the same because they understand how to adapt to the game. And I think the North Star is more so having people being able to more easily adopt the game, then maybe you'll see new waves, and that's how you evolve anything, right? So, I don't know. I guess end rant is, maybe the format changes and stuff aren't the only answer to how to grow.
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah.
I don't think anybody's saying that, but the fact that it's always brought up and the bunker changes are always brought up and everything like that, it's like, first tournament will come and it'll be a thing.
But what I think is good is that we're talking about it.
Yeah.
Right. Is that it's not just a ultimately, the heads at the NXL will have the final decision.
Right.
But I think they're hearing. I'm not saying that they're listening to the podcast, but I think more and more people are talking about it, and it's just getting out there. And I feel like the players who are actually playing the game, their voices are slowly being heard and helping influence and direct the sport of paintball. Because obviously we know everybody, opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one and they all stink. But for the most part. But it's just that it's finding the right answer, and it's the whole trial and error thing.
Right, and it's better said than not said, like you're saying. And this is a great. I mean, this is a perfect example of a great medium of getting it out there, whether everyone hears it or not. Like as far as people in position to do anything, it's just great that it's just out there. So.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
I have kind of a question for you. Want to know your opinion on it. Do you think that when we went from semi-auto to ramping, do you think that hurt newer players coming into the sport, or do you think it gave them more confidence on being able to play the game?
I think that it sort of put a crutch on the players that came in at that time, because I think when ramping came about is when coaching came about, and I think there were players that were brought on during 15.4 ramp and coaching that played totally different, than. But
because now there's a lot of players that all they know is ramp.
Right, and to their credit, you did have to, adapting to the game to know exactly how to listen to your sideline coach and do exactly what they said was a great way to, take advantage of that current style of play. But I do think in the grand scheme of just being a well-rounded paintball player, I think it did put a little crutch on them, right? Because you see a lot of the top players in the game played through all of the formats because they understand it's not just coaching and ramping and go. It's, you let the game come to you, and there's a million ways the game can come to you, right? So
yeah, because I always think about that. I always ask myself that question, because even at the top level, I see guys being able to hold a lane down with one finger while they're loading 500 pods, right? And they're controlling this whole lane, and I'm like, nothing against any of the pros in the league, but you think about it, I'm like, is that really the only skill there is maybe his thought of being able to control this lane.
Right.
As far as gun skills go, or any kind of gun control, I feel like it's like the gun is doing so much of the work. Back when we played 7-man, and you played, you had to do the work on volume if you wanted that, or and maybe that's why, in my subconscious, maybe that's why I don't really shoot that much paint, or I only shoot how much I feel I need to shoot, is because I like having that 5 balls of semi-auto before it kicks into ramping. Maybe I just subconsciously just like having that feeling of being in control of my marker.
I noticed yesterday when we were watching our match on the webcast last night, and I think we both subconsciously still went semi, because we both still go like this. Like the balls aren't coming out that fast, but you're like, it's like 10 balls a second. So
I miss shooting semi-auto so much, dude.
And I think there's something I do miss the fact that it's responsive to your fingers, right? And everybody sort of rode the line with that, and guns were shooting crazy, rate of fires with semi-automatic. But I do miss, how responsive it was to your finger and what you're doing and the balls coming out, right?
Yes.
Because it's kind of aggravating when the gun dictates the pace of the paint, and you're just like.
I think a great metaphor is it, and how I think about it is that it's it's like driving a stick or an automatic.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's those. I think it's the same thing, and I feel like the players now, they think they have that gun control, or what it feels like to have gun control, just because. I mean, honestly, all of the frames on the paintball markers now, I feel like should be single trigger anyway, because it's not like we need to walk the triggers at all.
Yeah.
It's like, honestly, I could see us going within a couple years, depending on whether or not the mechanical thing comes around, of everybody just shooting mechanical guns.
Yeah.
Because really, is there a need for electronic markers?
Right.
Or loaders. I mean, the GI loaders up there, or if you think about, you guys shoot the
Falcon loader.
the Falcon loader. Does it need to feed 30 balls a second? Does it need to feed 20 balls a second?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And I think going back down in the rate of fire might help because, you know, like the quality control, and it's just the way it works with any product is that the, you know, supply can't keep up with the demand, and the way it does is by sacrificing the product sometimes. Yeah. So you play for your first time and you're getting pelted by a rock hard bullet, right? It's like I remember the first national tournament we played was the first time we bought Ultra Evil at the time, right? And it's pink fill and it was a white shell, and that was like I was like, wow. Yeah. I remember like it was one of the first games and there was just like a jersey hanging out and it just break huge, like flew as straight as anything could fly, and it's like, okay, this is where it's at, right? Back to your case, when there's just more people playing the sport just because there's more people in the world, right? Not to say the percent of people, you know, has gone up or gone down. There's just more paint being, you know, fed to all these fields and tournaments and everything like that. Then I do like the fact of, it's hard to say, they need to sell paint to do it, but I miss the every single time you play paintball, it's with great paint, right? So.
We were just talking about that yesterday. I was because we practice with either field paint, right, or on very lucky weekends we get 1 star. Yeah. And we practice with that, and it's crazy. I was here, you know, yesterday, and we got the paint and we started shooting it, and I was shooting it. I was like thinking to myself, how awesome it would be to be able to shoot this every single time. And if anybody's listening out there, it's like we don't shoot 5-star at practice. We don't do that all. I mean, I don't know what you guys do, but we're not able to shoot that at practice. And to be able to come to these events and shoot straight and shoot at what you want to shoot at is like, this is what it should be every single time that I play paintball. We actually had our Falcon Gold for both practices, and we're all just like, ah. So I mean, you go to practice with your tournament paint and you're like, oh, we hardly lost any points. You're like, you know, right? You're shooting, it's like playing basketball with a flat ball. So anyway, let's see what everybody has to say on here, because we're also going live on Facebook. Carl, move you guys. Well, it's just, I have a camera here, so yours is kind of in the way.
Is it?
Let me see if I can move that there. Is that a little bit better for everybody wants to see your face, Drewby? Nice. So, but everybody's watching the web. I didn't expect anybody to really watch this on Facebook, but it's more or less for to upload onto YouTube later. Yeah. Nice. Because everybody's watching the webcast. But I want to go back quick too before we get out of here. But so you were on Voltage. Yep. And where did you go after Voltage? You fell apart, or I don't really know what happened to Voltage.
At the end of 06 Voltage, so we had that one really successful year, right? And that's when Ed and Greg Pauly, he was now coaching Avalanche, so we were kind of in talks to basically take all of Voltage and, you know, make it half the Avalanche X-Ball team, and then we would have an Avalanche 7-man team. So we'd have 2 7-man teams and 2 lines of an X-Ball team. So did that, and then in the off season, you know, as maybe just like a young selfish player at the time, I got contacted to try out for the All Americans, and I was like, okay, I'll go.
That's right, yeah.
And made the team, and I'm like, you know, this is the dream, right? This is what you know, is playing for an upper echelon pro team. Went, and it was fun. You know, that's when I won my first pro tournament. We won the World Cup Millennium.
That was your first win?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was Joy Division, and then we won. We beat Joy Division again in Germany at Nürburgring, and then played basically half the season, and then that's when in that same year left and came back to Avalanche and played with you guys from, you know, Omaha World Cup in the last half of that year. Yeah. So that was the Voltage transition, and then half of 07, Avalanche, all of 08, Avalanche. 08 is the year we played in Excel. So after we won World Cup, we went to the NXL. We played the first half of the season, I think, and then disbanded. 7-man team still stayed. So I continued to play with the 7-man team. And I think that's when you went to Infamous, right?
Yeah.
Was it that year? Yeah.
Yeah. And the whole reason that happened was because, and I don't know if you know this, but I wanted to play, because we were only playing 7-man, right, at the time. And I was like, I want to play X-Ball. I want to play as much paintball as possible. Right. And Ed was like, no, I'm not letting you. I was like, dude, I will find a team where it has exactly the same sponsors. That way there's no nothing. He goes, no. And then I find out that Danny, he let Danny play for. Who did he let him play? He let him play for somebody.
Infamous, right? Wasn't he on Infamous?
Probably for X
Maybe
Ball.
the next year. Okay.
Whatever it was, I heard that Danny was playing for somebody for X Ball, and I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm like, all I want to do is play paintball, man. I want to play with Avalanche, but I also want to play X Ball.
Yeah, the other tournaments. Right.
Or yeah, and he goes, no, not happening. I was like, okay, well, I'm done.
Oh.
I can't do it. And there were more little things, involved with that, but that was the main reason. That's the main reason why I left. And and looking back on it now, I feel like I was just a dick, and I should have just stayed, and helped try and grow that team, because I think it was really, really good.
Yeah.
I was very selfish at that time.
That's also when Ed got out of the team, because he let Frank run it. And Frank did a good job, but the roster totally transitioned. I think in 2009 we had Billy Bernaccia, Thomas Antoni, Sunda Billis, Danny, myself, Jake Whitaker. So it was a totally different team than the Voltage.
That's true.
Team, so.
That's true. I forgot all about that. Frank's pretty unique. New York. Yeah, he's a unique character.
Yeah.
I remember I almost got into a fight with him one time. We were at a practice, and I don't know if he was involved with the team or not, but I was in the corner, or I was in the snake. He was in the corner, and I think it was a practice in California or something. And I go over there. Nice. Yeah. Yeah. Also, loop around a little bit. But he was in the corner, and he gets shot and stands up, and I just kind of do one of those little snapshots, and I shoot him right in the center of the chest, and he goes, "What the fuck?" I'm like, dude, I'm sorry. I'm just came out with a snapshot, and he came at me, and I'm like, he lifted his gun. I lifted my gun up, and I think we both shot each other. And then after that happened. See, this is the great part about having the podcast here. We get all kinds of great players like
NCAA
Colt Roberts, everybody. Colt Roberts.
Oh, hi. Are we live?
You're live.
Hey.
You're live right now.
Hello, everybody.
What's up, Dan?
How's you guys doing today?
Well.
You guys are playing each other today, aren't you?
No,
playing each other?
different bracket.
No, we practiced though.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Good practice.
Yeah.
So we're both ready to do well. Good to
See you, bud.
Yeah, Frank's he ran the team well, and I think he treated us right because he came from a player's perspective. My goal in life, he's in our Clash Royale tournament. I don't know if you know what that game is, but my goal in life is he has more trophies than me, so I got to knock him out.
But he played, you guys, for 7-man,
Yep.
I think it was at SC Village. Did you guys get second place or something?
Yeah, we played second. That's another one that haunts me. You have these wins and losses, but I remember it was that 7-man tournament in the finals, game 3, and I lost a 1-on-1 against Arsenal in game 3. So it was a bunch of stuff happened, and it actually went from a 3-on-1. It was he doesn't play anymore, but he was one of the Callie would know because he was on the team.
Yeah,
I forget, but he was one of the original Arsenal guys. But it actually came from a 3-on-1 to a 1-on-1 super quick, and I just got antsy and ball. I just remember yesterday, ball hit the top of his bunker. I thought it sprayed, and I just lost focus. Thought I shot him, and then he just came out and whacked me. It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
So. But it's little moments like that.
Those little moments, man, that
make you not happen
and
do it again.
It's crazy too, how much paintball that you don't remember, or at least for me, and then how much of those little stupid memories that I have that that I just go back and I kick myself.
I know, but no, that was a good year. And then, so at the end of that year, Avalanche was when all the Voltage guys were a little lost on where to play, right? Because they had. There was a couple of us, Jake Whitaker was still on the team, but a couple of them had sort of not fizzled out of paintball, but we're kind of oh, we don't have a team. Avalanche isn't a thing. So the next year is when we all basically did the same thing we did from Voltage to Avalanche. We did it from Avalanche to Aftershock in 2009. Yeah. So we joined, I think, Nick Sloviak and AJ Lawhead, and...
Speaking of AJ Lawhead, he's watching right now.
Ooh. And,
hi, AJ. Can you hear everybody okay? Can you hear? Just give me a thumbs up emoji if you can.
And Cody, those were the guys that were already on Aftershock that stayed, and the rest of us joined. Oh, Ian Martin is one I forgot to mention. He was on 7-man with us, and he came to Aftershock. Do you remember when Ian was in that parachuting accident? Oh yeah, and he twice knocked his face off. And he would go to the bar and he'd have fake teeth, and he'd look at people and knock his tooth out. Hurry! Ian, put your teeth back in. Now he's like a chef or something like that. I see his photos on IG. He's like a chef in St. Louis. So. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. That's so cool.
So after Chicago Aftershock comes around, how long are you on Aftershock for?
It was that full 09 season, and we did pretty well. We made Sunday a couple times, never made top 4 or anything like that. And then at the end of 09, now that you say it a lot, I feel like I've switched teams a lot, but in my mind, I feel like I haven't. But I guess I have. Went to Vicious in 2010.
Yeah.
And played for them for my whole season, and I felt like that was the right camp because they played a lot of paintball, and I felt like they were young and hungry, and I felt like that was a little bit of something we were starting to lose our edge with that year on Aftershock, and I just wanted to play as much as possible, so pretty much went to Omaha almost every weekend, and we just played a ton of paintball. Tons and tons of paintball. But it never really quite clicked, and they were a great camp, and they were very hospitable and everything like that. But basically spent a year there, and then the next year went back to Aftershock. So then played on Shock. So that was now 2011, and played on Shock that year.
That was the Vegas win.
That was the Vegas win. That was
one night in November.
That was my first the Millennium win with Philly was great, and the World Cup Avalanche win was great, and we had divisional wins, right? But the only pro win I had at that point was Millennium, and that pro win was, oh my god, it was insane. So, because that was the definition of, whatever you want to call it, right? Shoestring budget. We loved paintball to death, and we grew up playing with each other, but we just toppled. That was the year Oliver came back to Dynasty, and that was the team growing up, and we beat them in the finals. It was like, oh my god, this is amazing.
Well, there's something. I think there's something too about a 7-man win that's different. I mean, it's just I have so many second places. I never had a 7-man win during my career, and that was something special. And I could tell, I was out of the sport at the time. But seeing you guys do that, of guys that I know, and I was like, they were so happy.
And it was perfect because everyone had like a huge moment at the event, right? It's like we played Impact in the semifinals. I think So shot every single one of them, right? And then, finals, we all had our moments. Like we all had our big moments in the game, which was, I think, a great part. I think that made it really special for everyone to not only have that, moment of winning together, but they each individually kind of had their moment of contributing to the team. So it was perfect. It really was.
I think that's the best way to describe a successful team at an event is like if, quote unquote, the superstar isn't playing that well, somebody else steps up in that role, and everybody plays to their ability, right? And it kind of goes like this with all the different players throughout the event. And with winning that event, I'm sure, what was the game that you had fucking stellar?
Game 3 of the finals.
Yeah.
I think they just kept filling the snake. It was like Mouse, then Alex, and it was just like down the line dead, down the line dead.
Yeah.
Shot Yo, shot Greenspan, shot Glenn. So collect them all.
And that was no team to shake a stick at.
No.
I mean, all those guys are superstars.
Yeah.
And that was green. That was green Aftershock.
That was green Aftershock.
Were you
that was the
fan
first year of green Aftershock.
Did you like those jerseys?
Yeah, I liked it. I think blue is the legacy though, so I think there's no steering away from that. So, but yeah, green was cool.
Yeah, I don't know. Every time I saw those green jerseys, I was like, dude, I don't know. I'm sure I like it, but I couldn't get used to them.
I like the thought process though, because it was kind of like old Aftershock was, was the bee's knees, but we're the new Aftershock, so it came with a new vibe, new color, whatever. So that was sort of our mantra. So
maybe that's why I like the gray jerseys that we have this year.
Yeah.
I would rather wear those gray ones than the blue ones.
Yeah.
Hopefully Rennick doesn't take that offensively or anything. They don't like the blue, I like the gray. But it's something different. It's kind of a new, like a breath of fresh air kind of a thing.
Yeah. But at the end of it, I just do what he says, because you walk into BBT and you see all these trophies. You're like, all right, I'll listen.
All right, man, whatever you want.
You know what you're talking about. I get it.
And that was 2011. And you were with that. You were on that team, right? No, you weren't. When I got on in 13.
No. Yeah. So 13. So at the end of 11, we took Shock guys, because Damien and Brad played with us on Aftershock that year. And then we all went to Infamous. So it's kind of always, besides the vicious move for myself, we kind of always traveled in packs for like 5 to here, 5 to here, 5 to here, 5 to here. And then in 2012 was when we went to Infamous as a group. So it was myself, Brad, Damien. They played World Cup, but Zach Patient, Chris Sosine, we all came to Infamous.
Yeah.
So, 2012.
Was that kind of a collective decision?
Yeah, I think so. I think Damien right, was the one that sort of instigated it. He's like, let's come to Infamous. It'll be sweet. Talk to Travis and talk to him that off season, and he's like, yeah, we want your whole squad, you 5 guys over, because it was at the time I think he was losing some of his aftermath, port overs like Marcelo and whoever else they had. So yeah, it was sort of a collective decision. And then it feels good. You don't feel as guilty because it's not like you're breaking up with all your girlfriends on the team, right? You're like, oh, we're all going to go? All right, let's go.
Yeah, yeah.
Except, sorry, AJ didn't. So if he's watching, and Cody. So, but yeah.
What was the, so going into this season?
Yeah.
Because I want to skip ahead a little bit because we gotta get wrapping up a little bit. Going into this season, especially from last, everybody started kind of dropping off, and I think it was you and Rob who were kind of the last ones left.
Yeah. Right.
Kind of on the fence, not really sure what to do because, the future wasn't so bright because we just didn't have the players. We didn't know who was gonna jump in, who we were gonna add, what was gonna go on. Bruno was on the fence.
Yeah.
Of whether or not he was gonna coach.
Yeah.
What was your final? We know your final decision, but what was kind of running through your head about next year?
I think I just missed the Infamous program. I became really good friends with a lot of people on the team, playing with them it's the team I've played on the longest in my entire career, right? I think this is my 12, 13, 14, like 5th season with them. So
yeah.
I just missed it, and I felt bad kind of the way I left the team in the first place. I kind of made the decision by myself, and I realized how many people in my life, including myself, that it affected, and it really made me realize that maybe I didn't make the right decision, and maybe I did it for the wrong reasons, right? To come back and like fulfill your Chicago legacy and have this like great Aftershock team, it's kind of just
which was always on the verge. I feel like was always on the verge.
But maybe that was all for myself, man, and I don't know if that's like the right way to really make any decision. And it just didn't really feel right, So I've got, my wife is a huge supporter of paintball, and she was like, you didn't even tell me you were going to quit the team, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just doing it. I just want to go back. I feel like it's the right move. I feel like these kids are hungry, and
you're talking about from Infamous to
Aftershock. Yeah. These kids are hungry, and we're going to do great. And then, not to say that when we had a bad season, I was just like, I'm out of here. But it's at the end, it's just like, I don't think that I made the right decision. That was my 3rd time coming back to Aftershock. And as much as sometimes maybe a square peg doesn't fit into a round hole, So. And
you wanted to, you wanted to, and I feel like
and I think it was just from maybe I don't know I don't know if it was like ego driven or what. I don't know. I think this sport makes you mature in a lot of ways, right? And I think last year I just realized that Infamous is where I need to play. I'm gonna play as hard as I can and give it all I can, and I'm not gonna just dick around in the sport for 10 years and just ride it just because I can play pro, right? It's like I want to be on that team, and I feel like it's where I won my first X-Ball event, and just feel like this is the program for me. So
yeah,
I think that was ultimately the right decision, right?
Yeah. So and that's the thing with decisions, right? And choices. You don't know if you made the right choice until you've made it, and even after that, you still don't know. Right. Because you just in life you just have to make those decisions and kind of just hope that you made the right one, and if it works out, it works out, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. And even if it doesn't work out, you can't let that just be the end all be all. Right. You have to continue and you have to push forward. And it sucked that for me when I heard that you left, because I feel like you were one of the better players in the team. You have contributed so much to the team, and it sucks, and I feel like we've become really good friends over the years, and it was just sucked to see you go and to see everybody go, and but out of anything that I wish you the best. Right. I wish you the best this year and everything, and I think that you've been a great fit for the program, just like any team that you've ever been on. I feel like you're a good fit and you contribute. Cool. And it was really cool to see you grow from when I first met you on Avalanche, and growing up and seeing you where you are now. I think it's really cool, and I wish you the best of luck, man. I really do.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Who you play today?
We play Impact first, and then we play Boom. So, and I think Impact lost their outer bracket Boom lost to Impact, so
Impact lost to Ironman. We played
Yeah.
Ironman today.
Ironman looked solid yesterday.
Mhm.
So yeah, looked good. So
I think it's gonna be good.
yeah, it'll be a fun tournament. Who do
I
you guys
think
play?
we play pretty good. We play Ironman. We play Outlaws.
Okay.
And let's talk about our game for just a quick minute. What did you see on this field that was working or was not working?
I think the Dorito side played really fast at practices, and it's still playing, as an aggressive side, but the way that Dorito side of the wall can play and just roll off on each bump, it makes it tough to, especially in, big points, you basically almost have to, without the confirmed communication, you're making the bump blind, so it's sort of slowed down because you have to wait to find all the bodies, and you have to know if he's on the snake side or the Dorito side before you can just risk it, right? And I've seen people make the moves down the Doritos and run and shoot the guy, or the guy just misses them, and that's a
Almost
thing.
by chance,
right? But so that's sort of how that side is played out. I think people are starting to figure out the shots through the windows on people running up the middle, because there's a bunch of different routes you can take to shoot different spots on the break.
Does this W seem? Do the windows seem smaller?
They do seem lower, but when we walked the field, I looked at it and it was brand new and it was just super inflated, and I could barely even see. I always have to kind of stand on my tiptoes to see the landing zones of the spots, but it felt really tall. And then yesterday it felt like I could get up in there and pretty much shoot the landing zone of D1.
Your window went from this to this, like looking through it. It's crazy.
Right. But back to the field, and then so the snake side, I think too, is the sleeper cell. It's like it's a great snake, and people are getting down it. And I mean, Thomas did work for us yesterday. He made some really sneaky moves because it
surprised the shit out of me, and I spun so hard on him.
We watched it last night on the webcam. You go back in the pit, you have like a hit right in your back.
You surprised the shit out of me.
The best was LJ. We were laughing. We played it a couple times. LJ murdered Thomas's face. Thomas came around and just went, doo, and LJ goes,
he said he saw his barrel, and he was just like. And then the one where Thomas ran down to come do me and the snake on our side.
Yeah.
He missed me. He put one through my jersey, and that's why I lifted it up and looked at it, and I was like,
you rolled backwards?
Yeah.
I think, no, you shot from your pack.
No, I got shot in my pack from your corner guy. Your guy was in the corner. After I shot Thomas and I landed, I got shot in the asshole by the guy in the corner. And that's when Thomas saw the hits in my pack, but it was actually after I jumped over, I shot him, I jumped over and landed, and I got shot by the guy that was in your corner.
Gotcha.
But Thomas completely missed me.
Yeah, but no, that snake's good. It's really hard to keep track of that guy because you can't.
Super hard.
You can't keep track of him down the wire, right? Because he can do little weasel wig. But there are, if you know where he's at, there's a lot of bounce shots in the snake, which makes it hard.
Yes.
That's why, the webcast is saying, he needs to come to their side of the snake. It's like, actually, he's going to go there, and they're going to shoot that 50 cake and bounce him to death. So
it's almost you want to try and take those inside shots as less as possible, because the more you can play the outside of that snake, the less they're going to know where you're at on the inside, and you can. At least that's how I was kind of looking at it.
Yeah, and the wall's great in the snake too, because there's like, you have shots on the knuckles, but it's like you move with the pins and you have just one narrow shot. It's not like the kind of wall where you can stand down on the dude, see him crawling or whatever, right? So that's good. But it's also great because they get to your side of the snake, maybe late body, and there is a pin right in the way of the wall. So it's actually pretty hard to get the wall out from the snake.
Which at practice we could see the wall guy.
Yeah.
Which fucked us up, because I walked it and I was like, shit. I was killing that wall guy at practice, and then I get there, and there was like 2 or 3 times where I crawled in to try and push it a little bit to see Damien in the W.
Yeah.
I just couldn't see him.
Yeah.
He was playing that thing so tight.
Yep.
And you guys also played that. I think it was Cody or somebody played the pin.
Yeah.
Played the pin on the Doritos side.
Yeah.
That worked really well.
Yeah, Cody killed it. Our uprising game, I think he ran through pretty much off the break to that pin and shot like 4 dudes.
Yeah.
It was great.
That was nasty.
I like that play because I went behind him to the corner. He's running. I'm like, all right, dead. I'll just go to Dorito 5. Cool. Flag.
All right, man. Well, I'll let you get ready for your game and everything. I really appreciate it, and I wish you the best of luck. And thank you so much for sitting down and talking to me.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Until next time. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much, Drew, for sitting down and talking to me. I know we talked about this before, but I told you I'd get you on, and I wanted to get you on anyway. But thank you so much for sitting down and chat with me at World Cup. It was a great pleasure. I had a great time, and I'm sure we'll talk in the future. But But another quick shout out to our sponsors, Charm City Paintball, where you can find him over at on Facebook as well as Instagram. Check out all the stuff he has over there and shoot him a message and get yourself some sweet headgear. Also to GIsportz, who have been helping Aftershock out for a while, but have helped out teams throughout the league. But I really enjoy shooting the LVL loader. Like I said before, make sure you guys check them out, GIsportz.com. Also brought to you by Carbon Paintball, where if you use the promo code capital TPOP, you can get 10% off of your order, your entire order, which has all the new CC lines out, the new SC packs, also the Thermotech pods, which change color the longer they stay in your pack. Make sure you guys check them out, carbonpaintball.com. And last but not least, Planet Eclipse with the new G-Tech mechanical frame that is out, along with a plethora of awesome markers that they have, including the LVR, which I shoot. But thank you so much to all of our sponsors, and thank you to you out there listening. Very much appreciated. If you know, I think about this all the time of putting these things out, and I enjoy it, and I get so much feedback from everybody out there, and it's very enjoyable for me to be able to put these out, and I'm glad everybody is liking them and listening and having a good time, and that's all it's about, man. Just, everybody has a paintball story. Go to any paintball field and you will hear a paintball story, but to be able to put this out there for everybody in the world is great, and I'm very, very grateful and to be able to do this. So thank you, everybody. Again, if you want to get a hold of me on social media, it's Carl_Markowski on Instagram, or Carl Microwave Markowski on Facebook. So thank you again, everybody, and we will hear you. We will hear. You'll hear from me. We'll see you again soon here on the Playing On podcast. Peace.